In fact, you took my stuff and made it better. Here's what I say. I gave you the book. If you can't improve the book, then you shouldn't even read it. I mean, in other words...
Hey everybody, it's Brandon Dawson. Welcome back to another episode of the B. Dawson Show, where I work with business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders, in this case, a world thought leader, on all aspects of business. And today I have the pleasure of joining Dr. John Maxwell. John, thank you for being on the show.
It's so good to be with you. Doggone it, I love you and I love what you do, and we're going to have a good time and help people.
I agree 100%. You know, you and I met, 11 years ago maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe longer, 12? I can't remember.
I remember when I met you, though, I realized very quickly that you understood business and you understood leadership. And, you know, it's one of those times, sometimes you just meet somebody for the first time, but you think, I've known them all my life. And that's how I always felt with you, just incredibly comfortable with your friendship and just felt like, hey, we could do some stuff together that could help people.
You know, I agree, and there's a certain feeling. You know, my dad was a pastor.
Sure.
There's just a certain energy that you carry that reminds me a lot of my dad, who happens to be here in the studio with us. So, hi, Dad.
And who is a great man. I mean, hello.
So, you know, for me, my personal journey of recognizing when my shareholders sold my first business that I was just a horrible leader, and not knowing. I think non-knowingness, I don't even know if that's a word versus knowingness. It's like not knowing what you don't know.
Sure.
And then a dear friend of ours, Hector Lamarck, said, you need to read this book. And he gave me 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And that book just absolutely changed my life.
Wow.
And then it caused me to go into all your work. You know, I just kept reading and then applying it to business. And then you and I had the pleasure, I don't know, probably 9 years later, start working together.
Yes.
And it's just, you've touched my heart and me as a human in so many ways. How many times do you get to hear that around the world?
A lot.
Yeah.
And I say that very humbly. I'm very grateful. And I'm real surprised, honestly. My mentor, I never had any, I don't know if you know this story, but I never had any desire to write a book. I love to read, but writing a book, being an author, that was no big deal. But I had a mentor, his name was Les Parrott, and he had written 5 books. And one day we were having lunch, and I said, Les, why do you write books? And he said, I want to extend my influence beyond my personal touch. I want my influence to, my circle, I want it to enlarge. And I leaned into him right then and said, then I'm going to write books. And the only reason that I've ever written books is not because I have to go write books, it's because it was a way for me to help people and add value to them. Little did I know that those books would become popular and that circle of influence would become greater, and that the books stay with you. You know, I mean, like you take the 21 Laws, or any of the books you read, you don't just read it once and put it down, but every once in a while you go back and pull it back up. A book kind of lives with you. And so I've been writing 86 books later. I'm still writing and loving every moment of it. And yes, every day I have people that I would never know come up and say, hey, let me tell you, this was the book I read that just kind of helped turn me around. Very rewarding. So that's why I do it. And I get up every morning at 5:30 and start writing. And Brandon, people ask me, say, you must be very disciplined. I said, no, I'm just full of anticipation. You see, I get up early and start writing because I know I'm going to say something or write something on paper that's going to change somebody's life. And it's the anticipation that keeps me in the game. People say, well, you know, you're 75. Why are you still doing all this stuff? Anticipation today. I mean, on this podcast, we're going to help somebody. We're going to make a difference in somebody's life, and it's going to be a good thing that you and I showed up. And it's going to be a good thing that they listened up, and it's going to help them. And then we're going to do some more stuff with a lot of your people today. And my life is full of expectation and anticipation that we're going to make a positive difference in someone's life. And really, is there anything better than that? If there is, you're going to have to help me what it is, because I don't know.
I agree with you. When you can touch people's lives, and I've been using your body of work combined with my experiences to teach people how to lead in their businesses. And you and I have had the privilege of actually working with a lot of those people at the same time.
Of course.
And it is just amazing what happens when the light goes on for people when they realize hey, if I actually actively engage people, give them a vision for the future, encourage them to succeed, have them win with me, how much they can do.
Yeah, and Brad, one of the things you do really well, you introduced me a little bit earlier to your podcast group that I'm a thought leader, and I am a thought leader. But one of the things I think that makes you so successful and so unique is that you can take a thought and put it into practical action and develop a game plan off of it. In fact, I know no one personally that's at the level of you having the ability to take good ideas, good thoughts, put them together, systematize them, lay them out in an order that people can understand and follow, and help them build a business. You've done that for so many years for so many people, and I'm always in awe of you because I know these thoughts and ideas work, but and you're such an action person, you take them immediately. I mean, the ink's hardly dry, and you're already running with it and developing a plan and a business, and that's why you've helped so many people, because you and I both know people can have a good thought or a good idea, but they just don't know what to do with it, and so they kind of hang, hoping something will happen, and then you come into their life and say, well, no, here's what you can do with this, and here's how you can build some business, and here's how you can help people, and here's how you can make some money. So you just do it really well, really, really well, Brandon. And that just excites me because you take my books, 21 Laws, whatever, and you teach them, but you not only teach the principles and the laws of those books, but you teach people, okay, now here's how you apply them to your life. Nobody does it better than Brandon Dawson. Nobody.
Wow, thank you, John. I really
You just do it really
appreciate that.
well. Really well.
And the fact that we've got to work together for so long in different aspects of both of our lives with the different people that we get to touch. You're such an inspiration to me because when I do see all the books and all the things you're doing, your Equip Foundation all over the world, it makes me feel like, why can't I just get bigger and be bigger,
But isn't that true with everybody? When you get around somebody that is big and they want to help you, you just feel bigger. I always feel inspired. I leave you and I think, wow, I can do more. I want to do more. I think big people make you feel bigger. Honestly, I think small people make you feel smaller. So it's kind of like who you going to hang with. You know what I mean? I prefer hanging around with people like you. I always come away a better person because of the time that we have.
I appreciate that. For me, you dynamically changed my life. I get a little emotional, maybe.
It's all right. We're buddies.
Yeah.
That works. That's why we're in the game, isn't it?
Yeah. It's hard to impress upon people that when someone that you don't actually have to know them. Like you loved me before you actually met me.
Yeah. Well, because I value you as a person, but that's the key of leadership. I tell leaders all the time, when you stop loving your people, stop leading the people, because leadership gives us a terrific advantage. If you are a leader and a good one, you are on higher ground than other people, not because you're better or not because you're a person of more value, but if you can see things before others see them, and you can see more than others see, it's just you're going to win. You're just going to win. Now, the question is not, can I see a bigger picture more? Can I see a quicker picture better and faster? The question is not, can I see that picture? The question is, what am I going to do when I see it? Am I going to take that and help me, or am I going to take that and help others? And I think that is the distinguishing difference between leaders that really add value to people and leaders who don't. Leaders that add value to people, they take all of the leadership advantage they have and they turn it into the advantage of the people. In other words, they say, let me share with you what I know. Let me share with you what I've experienced. Here, you can do this also. Here, why don't you get in the game with me? And again, you have done that for many, many years, and you've helped so many people that honestly, if you wouldn't have done that, they wouldn't have gotten in the game. So I know some leaders who they use that as their own personal advantage, and so I know they won't tell anybody. They'll say, well, this is mine, and I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go make some money. And they do it for self. And it's just kind of very sad to me, because if you have a leadership gift, you should use it as a gift to others and let them benefit and be blessed by it too. And I was in Kiev, Ukraine a few years ago, speaking to 15,000 people. And my translator was in the green room with me. And we were just ready to go out. I mean, we're 2 minutes from going out. He said, John, I know you talk about leaders adding value to people, but he said, I just want to tell you, you're going to go talk to 15,000 people who have never had that happen. Never had that happen. When they think of leadership, it's a dirty word. When they think of leadership, it's
somebody in charge.
Oh, somebody's in charge. They're taking advantage of me. I'm going to do something for their advantage. He said, so when you go out there, they're not going to understand that. And I remember walking out and looking at the people, and I asked them, I said, how many of you have ever been taken advantage of by a leader? Every hand was raised. And then I asked them, I said, how many of you would like to change that? Of course, they all raised their hand again. I said, now, for the next hour and a half, I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you how to add value to people. I'm going to teach you how to value people. And it was really a beautiful session. It was a huge paradigm shift for them, and I could just feel their hunger to find a better way. And so I just say to leaders all the time, in fact, I ask them, why do you want to lead? Because, a lot of leadership sucks, as well as I do. You got to make hard decisions. You got to let people go. I mean, leadership is not all fun. But when people tell me they want to lead because they want to add value to people, I know they're going to do well. Versus, well, I want a parking place or a corner office, or you know what I mean. I want to be in control. Whatever terrible reasons to be a leader people have. So I just love it when a leader cares for the people and really adds value to them, and it's his or her intention to really lift the other people. That's primo when that happens.
When you look at the national stats with 31.5 million small to mid-sized businesses in the United States, and that's just the United States, and 25 million of those businesses have a single operator,
Totally.
the founder. To me, the number one hardest thing for a business owner is to learn to lead even a single person, let alone themselves, right? So what encouragement for those that are just starting out and they're in business by themselves and they're frustrated because they're doing everything and they seem to be struggling to hire that first employee, that first person to help them. What do you think is the disconnect from where they're at to the ability to do that?
Well, we trust what we can do, and we're secure in what we can do. And so when a person says, well, I'd rather do it myself, what they're really saying is, I'm not making a lot of money and I'm not really doing a big business, but what I do works. And so they kind of take that maybe scarcity, security mindset and says, well, maybe I can make $100,000 this year and kind of hold everything together. And what they don't realize is that it's true. I mean, any person can do some things that will bring a return. But if you're going to compound, you have to include others. You have to bring them on the team. You have to train them. You have to enable them and empower them. And it's where the magic begins. It's where the magic begins. So what I tell people all the time is, you have to take the risk. And by the way, you're listening to a person that my first hire was a disaster. Okay. Yeah. And I was naive. I thought, we'll do this business together all our life, just you and me. I just was so naive. And within 2.5 years, he was gone, and it didn't work. And I felt hurt and a little betrayed. And I made a bad decision. Then I made another bad decision. I made a bad hire, but then I made a bad decision. I thought, well, I'm not going to let these people I hire get close to me because it kind of hurts. And so I'm going to keep them at a distance. And, you do your job, I'll do my job. We'll meet at the Christmas party, that kind of thing. And so I kind of kept that mindset for a while. It didn't work either. And because what happens, here's what I discovered. If you don't let people close to you, the good news is they won't hurt you. But the bad news is they won't help you. And so I made a very conscious decision as a very young business owner that I'd let them close to me. I would value them, and I would do everything I could to make it happen well for me. And there are a lot more wins than losses, but I've been hurt and continue to this day. That's part of leadership. That's part of business. But what I know is this: if you don't take that chance or that risk of hiring that first person, pouring yourself into them, and then building your team, you will never, ever multiply, not only money, you'll never multiply influence, you'll never multiply adding value to people. So it's kind of like, it may be safe with you, but it isn't going to really benefit a lot of people. You've got to get beyond yourself. Does that make sense?
It does, and I think that people my experience is a lot of people go into business because of what they don't want, not necessarily because of what they do want. And they think
Happens all the time.
Yeah, they don't want a boss. They don't want to be told what to do. And
Thank God I'm not doing that. Whoa, I got rid of that. Yeah.
And that is their block, being able to hire other people because they think other people are like them. They don't want to be told what to do. They're not going to be happy in their position. They're always going to be looking to leaving. I always tell people how you left somewhere is how you're going to assume everyone's going to enter.
That is such a good insight, and I believe that very much. And I also tell people never leave something, go to something. And start fresh. I also tell people sometimes, be the boss that you wish you had.
Yeah. And
so we'll do a little exercise. Tell me, who would you like to follow? Who would it be that, man, if they were your leader, you could just come to work and you could be and we just fill that little deal out. And when it's all done, I said, now, that's who you want to be right there. You be that. And it really fits for people. They kind of, oh, I got it. And they go do it. But I know and you know that everything rises and falls on leadership, always has, always will. And so the better we learn how to lead, and that's what I've given my life to, obviously, teaching people how to lead. But the better we learn to lead, the better we do for people. And that's why I'm in this leadership game. Leadership makes a difference. Great leadership makes a great difference. And so the more people you can care for, love, influence, add value to, the greater influence and the greater help that you are for others. Just it works that way.
And I mean, you've taken this not just to like business owners and all the books, but you've worked with world leaders.
Oh yes.
And what's some of the most frustrating things you've encountered when working with a world leader where you were just like, this country ?
Well, I travel the world. We've trained 5 million leaders in every country of the world. We're the largest equipping organization in the world. And what put me into this position of training leaders internationally was, especially in developing countries, the people were suffering because they had bad leadership. They weren't suffering because they couldn't have a better life. They were suffering, and they weren't even suffering because where they were, what country they were in. They were suffering because they had bad leadership. And so I became very passionate about what would happen if we could help people lead better. And what I discovered was this. The mistake I made, we make a lot, I have a whole lecture, Dawson, on you're never good the first time. And so I've got a lot of first times in my life where I go, oops. And so I really began to focus in like on the leaders of the country, and that was good. But what I found, the eureka moment for us is when we began to focus on helping people themselves learn how to lead. Because what happens is that allowed them to better themselves in their family and in their community, regardless of what was happening in the government. And then it helped them become aware of what good leadership was because they were practicing it. So now their expectations of even people that they would put into office began to go at a higher level. But I had a miss in the beginning. I just thought, well, we'll train the top leaders and everything will be well. And some of the top leaders didn't want to be trained at all. Some of the top leaders kind of like it where it is because they're taking advantage of the people. In fact, when I am privately, when the press is gone, the door shuts and I'm in the, quote, Oval Office or whatever of a prime minister or president, I look them right in the eye, Dawson, and I look at them and I say, one question. Are the people in this country better off because you're in this position? Or are you better off because you're in this position? You talk to me. It's just us. Who's winning here? Are you winning or are they winning? Because if you're winning, we got problems. The people have to win. The best thing can be said of any leader, Brandon, you know this, is when it's over, the people say, I'm better. I'm better because Maxwell was my leader. I'm better because Dawson was my leader. I'm better because of that. That's why we lead, to lift people. But that's a question I always ask. Do it privately. And I've had some very interesting conversations out of that question, obviously.
I bet you have. Very interesting.
Some to be told, some not to be told.
Yeah, exactly. I carry that forward to many of the conversations I have with business owners who have no problem voicing their frustrations with their people. But the inverse of that is when I ask them, what are you doing specifically to uplift your people? What's your intention to bring value to your people so they would care to bring value to you? And a lot of them they kind of just look at you. There isn't an intention. There isn't a focus. They're thinking, what are they going to do for me? They're on my payroll. They're supposed to work. They're supposed to, and from what I've learned from you is if we can create a vehicle, a business that allows other people to succeed inside of it, and then be be committed to their success, they'll multiply themselves and their impact and their influence, which makes your life actually easier, because if you're creating a business where you got to drag everyone around, it wears everybody out.
Of course. You hit it right on the spot. Isn't it interesting how you can go into a company and you can find a leader that kind of is always belittling, critical of the people, and in 15 minutes you can spot the problem. You can say, we're going to have to change. We're going to, you can't moan and lead at the same time. And I tell people all the time, if you're moaning, go home. Go home. When you get done moaning, come back. Because nobody wants to follow a moaning leader. Oh my gosh. They want to follow somebody that believes in them and that's positive and offers hope. And, especially when you think of where we are in our culture today with COVID, et cetera, hope is huge. I mean, when a leader can say, we're a very difficult time. In fact, I tell people all the time, I don't have the answer, but if you'll hang with me, I'll find it. Because there is an answer. And they love that because there's an authenticity about that. I'm not blowing a bunch of BS at them.
Yep.
I'm not just and I'm not kind of putting down the idea of it's difficult. When it's difficult for your people, it's important for a leader to say, this is hard. This is hard. Wow, this hill's a little more steep than I thought it was going to be. But it's okay. It's okay. I'm climbing too. We'll make it. It's going to take us a little longer. It's not going to be quite as much fun, but guess what? When we get to the top, we'll be higher than we've ever been before. And I think a leader walks slowly with that crowd, listening, learning, and then leading. And I think that is so essential. Almost all the leadership I do is leadership that I'm hearing from the people. Jack Welch was a good friend. Of course, he was king of all CEOs for several years when he was at General Electric. And when he would go to a plant, he'd spend 20 minutes with the manager. And then he said, I'll see you at 4. And he was gone. He was down on that floor. He was in that assembly line. He was in that boiler room. He was asking questions. He was finding out stuff. By the end of the day, he had connected with all of them. They were all in love with Jack Welch. And he'd come back to the manager and he said, did you know this was happening here? And did you know you have this problem here? The manager didn't have any clue because he wasn't people-centric. And so Jack just said, I found that if you put the people first, and they know that you're going to help them, and you're intentional about adding value to them, they'll follow you to the ends of the. We don't have a followership problem. We have a leadership problem. Good leaders, people will follow them all the way. So when people say, well, those people, they just don't follow. Well, that's because of you. If you could get out of the way, somebody could lead them for sure. Leadership is the answer. I know that for a fact. And we have to become aware, very aware of our needs. I do a teaching on awareness. We all have blind spots. I have blind spots. And so I have to tell my team all the time, you're going to have to help me. In fact, my favorite question is, what am I missing? Because I always assume I'm missing something. I never assume that I have it all corrected. So tell me, from your perspective, I sometimes look at my staff and I'll say, what's it like to be on the other side of me? Talk to me about that. What's it like? I know what it's like to be on this side, but you see me differently. You're on the other side. Give me some feedback. What's it like? What's it like when I come into the room and I start talking? How do I make you feel? Do I draw you closer to the vision? Just tell me what it's like to be on the other side of me. And the leader, Brandon, the leader has to give permission for that kind of feedback. If you don't, people won't give you that feedback. They're worried about their position, and I might get fired. So I tell leaders all the time, you have to walk into the room with your people and say, you can talk to me. It's okay. And I want to hear from you. Because we all have blind spots, and we're all missing something. But when the team knows that they can help you, then they jump in, and you just get through problems. And if you don't make the issue and you keep yourself out of it, you can solve problems pretty quickly. But how many times do we see the ego of a leader just screw everything up? And takes months to do something that could have literally been done in a half a day if we didn't have a leader that just had felt so much self-importance.
And then usually they want to tell everybody what to do, and they actually don't know what they're doing, and their team knows they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. So they're not going to go do it. So you have inaction. You said something last night. We were having dinner, and we were talking about, even really super successful people, and the personality that it's like, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, and that was me in my first business. That's why I lost it ultimately, right? And you said something last night that I just love my listeners to hear, and that is, no matter how good you are at what you're doing, no matter how impactful you are, there's always a better way to do it.
Always a better way. Yeah, no, there's no question about it. I never assume when I write a book or when I speak or when I do a cast vision, I never assume that I have given them the final answer. Now, this is good. I'm glad you brought this up, because let me make a distinction between best and better. I was having a dinner one time. We were traveling international a couple years ago with Mark Cole, who you know, Mark, who runs everything for me. And Mark said, John, I watch you, like when we have a victory, you just celebrate big time with us, but within 24 hours, you're so off of that. You're back in the game. And he said, I watch us have some losses and hits, and we all want to go suck air and go find a bridge to jump off. And you kind of groan with us for about just about a day, and then you're back in the game again. It's kind of like it never happened. The success never happened. The failure never happened. And he said, talk to me about how do you emotionally get through all this and kind of steady back right into the game. And I told him, I said, what's the difference between best and better? Every time I speak, I give it my best, 100%. I mean, why would I speak without giving? I mean, I value people. I tell people, I value you so much, I'm going to do well. I mean, you deserve it. I value you so much, I'm going to come in 100%. I'm going to give you I'm going to look at you with integrity and say, I'm giving you my best shot right now. That's a fact. But when I'm done, I don't assume that that's the best I could ever do with that. I just assume it was the best I could do at that moment. So the next day, I'm looking for better. In fact, best, which is kind of like the ceiling in the moment, the next day is the floor. I'm building on best now. I'm saying, okay, there are a few things if I probably would have put it in that talk, I could have just ratcheted that up a little, and I just keep working it and tweaking it and making it better. So the next time I'm doing, I'm in a constant state of improvement and bettering myself, which improves and betters everybody else. And I believe that I always believe there's an answer, and I believe that there is a better answer. So if somebody said, is this your best book? When I wrote it, it's my best book. But 3 years later, it's not my best book. In fact, I can look back at it 3 years later and say, oh my gosh, I should have said this. What would have happened if I'd have told them that? So as long as we're growing, we have great anticipation that our best today will get better tomorrow. So, and my expression is, don't rest on the best. I hate when people say, oh my gosh, we got it. You got it? You really got it? You must be amazing. I've never known anybody that just got it. So, you don't need to improve, change, work it anymore. It's my gosh, it's build a statue to you. I don't think I've ever met anybody that good. I never, ever have done anything where I felt that I got it. I'm getting it, and I'm working it, and it's the best I can do right now, but it'll get better. It'll get better.
Golly. Look, I know we have a whole crew of people waiting on us, and it is so hard in this moment to stop this podcast or to move on to the other people. But I just want to underline for every single person listening to this that when you think you got it and you think it's the best you can do, just remember, it can always be better.
Yes, and can I add one more?
Yes,
I know we have to go, but now you're stimulating my mind. Let me tell you something. The people that you have around you, they have to have that same thinking. Nothing is worse for a leader than the people coming around that leader and say, that was just awesome. That was so good. My gosh, we found it. I want people around me when it's done say, John, that was just what we needed right now. Let's get to work on it. Let's bring it up another notch. And so for me, there's no finish line. There's no finish line at all. When people say, well, I finally got that project done. I said, no, you just got that project done for now. let me put it this way. My best today won't solve the problems of tomorrow. I know that for a fact. It is impossible. So if I settle and rest on the best, I am going to miss tremendous opportunity in the future to improve life, people, and myself, because somehow I thought that I had found it. We don't find it. We pursue it. And so the finish line's always out there. It's always out there. Somebody asked me, said, "You're 75. When are you going to cross the finish line?" I said, "I won't. I'll die stretching, but it'll still be in front. When I die, I won't say, 'Oh, I crossed the line.' No, I died, but I didn't cross the line. I was still stretching for it."
I love you so much.
I love you,
Oh
my dear
God.
friend.
You are just such an inspiration. And look, I think the most important thing I want my listeners to hear is that from 2002 until 2010, John was my mentor because of his books. Yeah. And from 2011 to today, John became my friend because I didn't stop pursuing meeting him.
Oh.
And then we met, and then we developed a friendship, and that magnifies the mentorship even that much more. So for those of you listening, they're like, how do you meet somebody, have them become your mentor? Sometimes they're your mentor before you meet them. And I can assure you, people ask me all the time, like, how did you get to know these people? If I read your book, didn't apply it, I showed up in the crowd and I just wanted an autograph and a picture, you would have never remembered me.
Never.
Because you see millions and millions and millions and millions of people. So the way that you get involved with a mentor is, how can you help a mentor? And what can you do for them? And how deep do you go into their knowledge? Because when you met, you go, you know my stuff as well as I do. And we did this little thing on live stage where people just peppered us with questions.
Fun.
And
Just
you were like,
fun.
that was so much fun. I want to do it again.
Yeah. But you had fleshed it out. In fact, you took my stuff and made it better. Here's what I say. I gave you the book. If you can't improve the book, then you shouldn't even read it. I mean, in other words, I gave you the principles. I already gave them to you. Now all you got to do, now can you build on this? And the moment you start building on those principles, Brandon, you get better. In fact, my whole thing is, I wish everybody that gets improved off my book would send me their stuff back so I could improve myself more too. So the book is a start. It's where you start. You never stayed there. And so when I heard you the first time, you're fleshing out these principles and practices to your people. And it's magic, because the principles, the thoughts, the ideas, they themselves don't make greatness. They just give you an opportunity to act upon it. There is no success without action. So anybody that thinks they're going to think their way through it, or I'm just going to meditate a little bit longer, while you're doing it, the train's leaving. You've got to take everything that works and put it in. It doesn't work into you. I call it action attraction, really, and that is the moment you take action, you begin to attract people, resources, things that you can never attract sitting still. We're supposed to leave our footprints in the sands of time, not our butt prints in the sands of time.
All right, listen, this is going to turn into a 3-hour episode of the
will.
B. Dawson Show. I can't tell you how much I love you, John. You know that. Thank you for coming out and spending the day with me and all these business owners I've been working with.
Pure fun.
And I know my dad loves you as well. So
He's the best. That's why you and I are both products of great fathers.
yes.
We won the parent lottery, and you and I didn't choose that. We just got blessed by God and got lucky. Yeah. And that's why when I look at you, you better produce. Look who's in the room. And my father died at 98 just a year and a half ago, and he's still with me, boy. I mean, he's physically gone, but he is with me. And I look at myself every day. My father every day would say, "John, whomsoever much is given, much is required. Get with it, boy." Yeah. You don't take those talents and gifts and sit on them. You utilize those at max, and that's what you're doing. And I just love you and love what you do. I love what you do for people. Love your heart. You are making a huge difference in many people's lives, including mine. So let's keep doing it.
Let's do it. And thank you for watching another episode of the B. Dawson Show with the remarkable John Maxwell. And that'll be another episode of the B. Dawson Show.